It looks like silk. It feels soft, delicate, and luxurious. But this remarkable fabric begins with something most people would never imagine turning into clothing: a lotus stem. Lotus silk is one of the rarest natural textiles in the world. It can be woven into scarves, shawls, garments, and luxury accessories, often carrying a price far above ordinary silk. The finished fabric may look simple in a boutique display, but behind those fine threads is an extraordinary process involving thousands upon thousands of lotus stems, careful handwork, specialized tools, and remarkable patience. Unlike conventional silk, the thread is not produced by silkworms. It is drawn from tiny fibers hidden inside the lotus stem itself. And once we follow those fibers from the water gardens to the finished fabric, we discover a production process most people have never seen. Lotus silk is made from the extremely fine natural fibers found inside lotus stems. When several microscopic fibers are carefully pulled together and twisted, they form a continuous thread. The result is a lightweight material with a distinctive softness and natural texture. The process is especially interesting because the usable fiber is incredibly delicate. A single lotus stem contains only a small amount of workable material, so enormous quantities of stems are needed to produce relatively little finished fabric. This is why lotus silk remains a luxury textile rather than a mass-market replacement for ordinary fabrics. Its value comes not only from the finished material, but from the extraordinary amount of labor required to create every thread. So, before the fabric can reach a loom, the journey begins in the fields and ponds where the lotus plants are grown. Freshly harvested lotus stems arrive at the processing area in bundles. They are collected from lotus growing regions and transported while still fresh, because the internal fibers are easiest to work with before the stems become too dry or damaged. Workers unload the stems and spread them across preparation tables. At first glance, they look like ordinary green plant stalks. But inside these hollow stems are tiny strands of cellulose-rich fiber that will eventually become the thread. The stems are counted, sorted, and moved into the preparation area. There is no giant machine capable of replacing this first delicate selection. The quality of the raw stem determines how easily the fibers can be extracted later. The fresh stems are cleaned and prepared for extraction. Workers remove leaves, damaged sections, mud, and other unwanted material. The stems may be rinsed and carefully wiped so that dirt does not contaminate the delicate fibers. They are then inspected for freshness, straightness, and usable length. This step may appear simple, but consistency matters. Lotus silk is extremely fine, and even small pieces of debris can interfere with the fiber during spinning and weaving. Once the stems are cleaned, the real transformation begins. Now comes the step that makes lotus silk so different from conventional textile production. Workers place a lotus stem on a smooth surface and make a precise cut. With a controlled motion, the stem is gently pulled apart. Inside, extremely fine white fibers begin to emerge. The worker draws several tiny strands together and rolls or twists them between the fingers, gradually creating a longer continuous thread. There is no traditional recipe or large batch mixer here. Instead, the forming process depends on thousands of precise movements. As one short section of fiber is exposed, another is joined to it. The strands overlap and bond through twisting, slowly becoming a usable filament. This is the core transformation. But unlike many factories, lotus silk does not require high-temperature cooking or heavy industrial molding. The main processing is mechanical and remarkably delicate. The freshly extracted fibers are continuously twisted and joined to increase their length and strength. Workers maintain a consistent thickness as the thread develops. If too much fiber is added, the yarn becomes uneven. If too little is added, it can become weak and break. The developing thread is therefore monitored almost constantly. As more fibers are joined, the material changes from fragile plant strands into a smooth, continuous textile yarn. This is the moment when a common lotus stem begins to acquire the qualities of a luxury fiber. Once enough individual strands have been produced, they are gathered into longer lengths of yarn. Workers carefully wind the freshly made lotus thread onto spindles or reels, keeping tension controlled so the delicate material does not snap. In some production systems, the yarn may be combined with additional strands to create the desired thickness and strength. Unlike automated textile factories that can produce enormous quantities every hour, Lotus silk production remains heavily dependent on skilled hands. Every connection has to be smooth. Every section must maintain a consistent structure. Eventually, these fragile strands become organized yarn ready for the next stage, inspection, and preparation for weaving. Before the yarn becomes fabric, it is carefully inspected. Workers examine the thread for uneven thickness, weak sections, breaks, unwanted plant material, and irregular twisting. The yarn may be stretched gently to check its strength and consistency. Any damaged section can be removed or repaired before weaving begins. This inspection is especially important because Lotus silk is expensive precisely because the usable fiber is so limited. A small defect that might be acceptable in a low-cost textile can become a serious problem in a luxury fabric. Quality control protects both the material and the reputation of the finished product. Once the Lotus yarn passes inspection, it is carefully prepared for textile production. Instead of being packed like a conventional industrial commodity, the delicate yarn is protected from excessive moisture, dirt, and physical damage. It is wound into organized bundles or reels, labeled according to production batches, and prepared for the weaving area. Because production volumes are relatively small compared with conventional silk, packaging is often more controlled and manual. Every bundle represents a significant amount of labor and a large number of Lotus stems. The prepared yarn is then stored in a clean, controlled environment until it is ready to be woven. Batches are organized so workers can track the material from extraction through textile production. Unlike warehouses filled with thousands of identical cartons, a Lotus silk storage area may contain relatively small quantities of high-value yarn. Careful handling is essential. The fibers must remain clean, dry, and protected from unnecessary friction. From here, the material can move towards specialized weaving equipment, where individual threads finally become recognizable fabric. After weaving and finishing, the completed Lotus silk fabric is prepared for distribution. Finished scarves, shawls, garments, and other products are folded, protected, labeled, and packed for transport. They may travel from the producing region to specialist textile dealers, luxury retailers, boutiques, exhibitions, or international customers. Unlike ordinary mass-produced fabrics that can move through huge global supply chains, Lotus silk often follows a more specialized path because production is limited and the material commands a premium price. The journey that began with fresh green stems now continues far beyond the original growing fields. Eventually, the finished Lotus silk reaches a boutique, showroom, specialty textile store, or luxury marketplace. A customer may see only a beautiful scarf hanging under soft lighting. They may touch its surface, feel its unusual softness, and admire its natural texture. But behind that single finished piece is a remarkably long chain of work. Lotus stems were grown and harvested. Fresh stalks were cleaned and sorted. Fibers were pulled out by hand, joined one by one, twisted into delicate yarn, inspected, protected, woven, finished, packaged, and transported. What makes Lotus silk extraordinary is not simply the fabric itself. It is the transformation. A plant that grows quietly above the surface of a pond becomes a thread thinner than many people could imagine, and that thread becomes a luxury textile through thousands of careful human movements. From the lotus field to the factory, from delicate fiber to finished fabric, and finally from the store to someone's wardrobe. Every piece carries the story of a material that nature created and people learned how to turn into something remarkably beautiful.